I didn't consider myself to be a spiritual person until last year, 2023. Yeah. But I got into interesting things like I can now read the cards because it's hard to explain when you're teaching creatives how to put structure in business around your business. Like consulting in general is not.
I get it.
Yeah, of course. Who knows it better than you, right? So I'll be very honest. I don't think you can have any less questions thrown at you when it comes to the family and you're doing your own stuff. So we've got a program called Sketch to Store, literally, which really takes designers onto different parts of their business, helps them solve different elements of their business that they really need assistance around. Okay, so when we started out with Satatki, and I was married to the idea of, like building this platform or this matchmaking, this algorithm, we don't know what form it's going to take. I think at the back of my head, the only thing that was running along with, my co-founder was it's expensive.
3, 2, 1, yeah! Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined.
And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work.
Courage is not doing things in the absence of fear. Courage is doing things despite the fear.
Growth comes from consistent action.
And you're realizing, hey, I'm not the only one with these problems.
Welcome to the BYOB podcast. Thanks, Shruti, for
Thanks.
making it. Thanks for your time, all these general pleasantries. I think let's start with, we've been talking about accountability, so let's start with it, right? Can you tell me a little bit about what you're missing right now when it comes to accountability, or what does accountability mean to you?
I think my definition of accountability has changed, and it continues to change and evolve rather. But I think when I started out or first figured out what accountability means to me, I think it was just more about having someone who has your back and gets you to do your shit. Work, life, whatever, right? Like you're struggling with, I guess. But I think over the years of being in business coaching and then running your own business and figuring life out, solopreneur, I realized I think accountability is a lot that comes from within. It's not really about the other person. So I think my definition of accountability is just, okay, once you're ready, I guess you just need somebody to report to, for the lack of a better word, somebody who can sort of listen in, someone you can use as a sounding board. So that really is what accountability is. And that's probably what I'm on the hunt for at this time.
I just realized that we've obviously got into our conversation because we know each other very well. But our wonderful listeners and viewers might need a little bit of an introduction. So, Shruti Jaipuria, founder of Satatki, why don't you tell everybody what you're up to right now?
First, thanks for having me on this podcast. I think I should have said this 20 seconds ago.
Yeah, we've really fucked with the routine and how this is supposed to
the
go.
Pleasantries. But guys, hi. And like Rashid said, I'm the founder of Project Satatki. I think it's fitting for me to talk about what Satatki really means and stands for at this time. So Satat in Hindi is sustainable, and Ki from Japanese is the spirit. So when I did sort of coin this on one 25-minute sprint, the idea was to come up with a name that is all-encompassing, that sort of is a little bit more intangible than most other businesses that I have heard of within the fashion space, that feels like I'm leaving behind a little bit of a legacy, and something that can stick with and stay with everybody, right? So it's spiritual, so that's probably why it is Satatki. And then from the past history that I came with, like Project was a name that I wanted to sort of attach because it almost feels like it's a mission that you're on. It's something that is small yet big enough for everybody sort of join in, right? So Project Satatki, where we really work with a whole bunch of independent slow fashion designers who are looking to sort of grow their business on the fashion side of things and go global. We've obviously worked within the positioning of this statement multiple times, I think in the last 2.5 years since we've gone legal. But I think what we really do is help fashion designers, brand owners, creative professionals, or just anybody who has an idea that's fashion focused, fashion related, go from sketch to store. So you have an idea, you want to get into a retail space, you basically want that, offline FaceTime with a lot of your buyers. We help you carve out your idea. We help you put it down on paper. We help you put businesses and processes around it, think through your range, your collection, your pricing, and also put strategy around how you should go to market. That's really who we are.
I'm very excited to know more about Satatki and what it's doing right now. But before that, I want to delve a little bit into what you shared from a personal space, which is that the name came from a very spiritual place. So I wanted to understand whether outside of work, would you consider yourself a spiritual person, and what do you do in that sort of sphere?
I'm actually glad that you asked me this question because, again, I wasn't prepared to answer anything on that side of stuff. But somewhere deep down, I mean, I have an answer now for everybody else. I didn't consider myself to be a spiritual person until last year, 2023. Yeah. Yeah. But I got into interesting things like I can now read the cards. I've been learning tarot and I'm like an advanced tarot reader now. So, yes, I am spiritual to answer your question, but that's not from where I think the name came. It was just more of I always believed in having a vision, a name, and a business that is beyond just me and what I do. It's something that I can give back to the community of, fashion designers, entrepreneurs, and also just within my industry, because I guess fashion is probably the only thing I'm good at when it comes to business. So I just chose to come up with something that is bigger than me, and that's how we coined that name. And I'm glad it has a little bit of a spiritual story to it. But no, that was not conscious at all.
Okay, got it. I very clearly remember when your official launch event of Project Satatki, which was absolutely fantastic. I really want to understand a little bit into what went behind the scenes to make something like that happen. And before the actual execution of stuff, I want to understand, how did your mind process things to decide that instead of doing a digital launch like most people do with their businesses now, or doing something small and prototyping and testing something, dipping your toes in the water, you just went, fuck it, we're going to do this like really big event, this activation for all of the people you work with, the designers you work with.
Yeah.
It was an absolutely incredible event.
Thank you.
I want to know when did you make that decision of that's how you wanted to launch? How did you come up with that decision?
Okay, so firstly, there was no process behind the decision making. Let's honestly be very candid about that. Like, there was no process behind it. For most people who know me, you know me enough to know that I will think through a lot of those decisions, and I need to have a purpose that's going to define and the why and the how and all of that, right? And there needs to be the method to the madness. But with something like that, I think it came with years of working behind the scene. So somewhere deep down, I was just like, okay, I want to do something that's bigger, that's out of the box, that's something that also where I can prove to people in the industry that, we've been around for a really long time. So it just sort of like establishes us to a certain extent, us, me, whatever, right? So it came from there, I think, the back thought. And then it also came from the fact that, fashion has always been a glamorous business and an industry. Now, just because I'm working on, the unglamorous, the business side, the stuff that's the more number crunching, retail piece of things, then it doesn't mean that that's not what it is. So it became a little bit of a challenge to myself as well to go out there and prove that I can do that glamorous piece.
Stuff.
Yeah. So these were the only two, premises to wanting to do something like that. And then, of course, it comes with this whole, listen, you are an entrepreneur, you come from a business background, you got to prove it to family, and people need to take you a little bit more seriously within the community. Like I was tired of answering the question in terms of what are you doing also, right? Because it's hard to explain when you're teaching creatives how to put structure in business around your business. Like consulting in general is not.
I get it.
Yeah, of course. Who knows it better than you, right? So I was like, okay, it's business consulting and business coaching for creatives and fashion entrepreneurs, but how do we take this and make it more tangible, let the world see what we're really doing? So that was the other premise where we just decided, okay, let's go, out there. And I have to give credit, of course, to Dhwani from Distill Media, because she worked with the client where we sort of showcased. And it started off with a very, very small seed where, hey, Shruti, I really need you to go see this place and you can use this for your shoots for your clients, right? And I was like, but I don't even do shoots, but I don't even do creative side of things. At least back then, I never did. But, and again, I sort of tried to postpone that meeting multiple times where I said, okay, now I need to go show up and really see what this is all about. Because again, she's not going to recommend me something that's not going to be worthy.
Sure.
I went, I saw that, and I was super blown away by that space. But then I said, to really do full justice to that place, to the team, to everybody who really wants me to do something with this place, I need to make it bigger than what I want to as well. So I wasn't prepared for that. But then once I saw the space, I think the idea came to life. And so visual is very, very important in our business. And yeah, that's why we, work literally on the unglamorous side of business, but need to see a lot of the things before we sort of commit to it as well, whether it's the brand, a design, or client. So yeah, that's how the idea came.
There are a couple of things that came to my mind. One is, very quickly, you kept saying you had to answer to relatives, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? After that event, was that answer easier?
Much easier.
Okay.
Much easier. At least one part of it. I'm still telling you, I'll be very honest. I don't think you can have any less questions thrown at you when it comes to the family and you're doing your own stuff, which I'm very grateful for now, I realize, because those questions really keep you on your toes. And the hunt for finding those answers helps you sort of really get better as an entrepreneur. But they did become much easier. Lesser number of questions, and I think the frequency of questions
has slowed down. Nice.
Right. So every social gathering and family gathering with friends and family is not only about what the hell am I doing. It's a lot more about like clients, maybe deeper discussions, more conversations around what works really.
Nice.
Where it's taking me.
Yeah, so they're getting a bit deeper into what you do. So obviously they understand the high level stuff now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
So that's fun. Yeah.
You shared that you deal with the messy side of the fashion business and there's a glamorous side, and you wanted to showcase that. I remember coming there and just being blown away by the event. I didn't have a clue what to expect, but it was incredible how you activated all of the brands you work with and how you'd set up the space. It was like it felt like a walking museum of independent slow fashion.
Thank
people.
you. Sorry for interrupting, but thanks for saying that, because that's exactly what we were going for, right? Like this slow fashion exhibit museum. And honestly, it was just me coming up with the idea of this is what we want to do, but the rest of the team that I put together specifically for that event, who really built on that. So yeah, it's definitely a team effort, but I'm really glad it still stays with you.
Who is the real Shruti? Is it the person messing around with, like, dealing with the messy part of the business? Or were you in flow at that glamorous event? Or was it this is now performance time? What was it? Or was it a bit of both? Because I'm still confused.
Yeah, it's a question I've been battling with as well. And I think recently, I feel like I'm a bit of both. Okay. I'm more the business side of fashion. So if I have to find my feet and wherever, it's literally my, I would say, center that I would always go back to. I think it's the business side of fashion. So I really enjoy being somebody behind the scenes, processing, helping people with their process systems, all of that. That's what I really love doing. But I do have a creative side to me. And it comes from, of course, growing up in a family that's been into fashion and textiles, of course. And just, I think, the nature of the industry that I am in, which sort of also really is my dopamine. So I have to go out there and do a little bit more creative stuff, more than I want to. But I enjoy that as well, or at least I'm learning to enjoy that a little bit more. That puts me out of the comfort zone. It helps me sort of think a lot more visually. And I think it's really hard to do that for someone like me who comes from, the retail side of fashion. It's a lot more touch and feel for sure, but we've not really learned how to design, and I haven't really, I can't sketch to save my life. So I just decided to sort of challenge myself every now and then by adding some bits of creative and, the visual mood board piece of things to my business. And I'm a bit of both.
I feel like I've attacked you with personal questions over the last 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, so I was trying to be really nice.
We'll pause for a little bit and we'll get to a little bit more on the business side of things, because I'm sure that's an interesting conversation as well. Can you tell us, to start with at least, what is the state of play with Project Satatki right now? So can you give us a flavor of the type of clients you're working with, what type of work you're doing with them, so that we just understand what it is right now? And then I'm very excited to find out a little bit more about the future of the project.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. I can just go on and on about work.
I'll cut you off at some point, but you can start.
Yeah, sure. No, so we've got a program called Sketch to Store, literally, which really takes designers onto different parts of their business, helps them solve different elements of their business that they really need assistance around. So if I really have to break this down, anybody who comes to us comes with problems that are multifold, right? It could be business pricing problems. It could be just, I don't know how to sell this. Is this idea marketable enough?
And it's all fashion entrepreneurs.
It's all
to be
fashion
clear.
entrepreneurs, right? Fashion and maybe like accessory jewelry designers, a little
Got
bit.
it.
So anybody who's in the fashion space who comes to us and they have a bunch of problems, we sort of bucket those problems. And then the way I look at fashion, literally there are 4 different problems in the business, no matter what stage and size you are in. One is everything to do with road mapping. No matter what time of your journey you are in, how old the establishment is, you will have a challenge with how you sort of roadmap. Where do you go next? Literally.
Direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if everybody knows, I just love business modeling. Like that for me is the start of anything, any conversation.
I remember when we did it the first time at Jigsaw, you got addicted very quickly.
Very quickly.
Every conversation of yours was like, ooh, business model.
Business model, right? So I just have to innovate. I have to go back to the drawing board with the business model. So we just start with that. Once we, finish that piece, they have an idea or a clue about, okay, who we're targeting. And they also understand the challenges that come with targeting XYZ. And so they realize that, okay, to target XYZ, we basically got to create a product like this or find the fit after that. Okay. So once we finish that goal setting, we then just sit down on their product and their range.
Got it.
As a retail person, I mean, I can tell you this, working with designers, you have to pull them back a little bit, right? So it's very tempting for them to just go to their softwares and be like, hey, look, this is so cool.
I'm curious about the second step. Do you get a bit of resistance from the designers? Because it sounds like what you're doing is, business fundamentals 101, right? Like, let's figure out what the market is looking for, what the customers need, etc. Then design stuff with our personality to fit that.
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of designers want to go, here is my creative vision. Let's just see where it takes me. So do you get a lot of resistance on step 2, or do they tend to accept? Like, okay, cool, let's do it.
I used to get a lot of resistance, but I think, of course, I've been able to establish myself a little bit in the industry where now everybody listens a little bit more.
Sure.
And also because they're coming to, like a fashion business consultant, they expect for the consultant to tell you what's not working. So I'm quite candid about that on the discovery chat. So I tell them that, hey, these are probably some of the reasons why it's not working. So we could start with that.
Fair.
Right? And then, of course, it's not by force. So they have the choice to decide which way they want to start. I think when we built the program, it was very linear, right? Like you do this and then you do this and then you do this. But today, I've become a lot more flexible where I'm like, fine, if you want to start with the design piece of things, sure, let's do, but I'm not going to step back and not think about the business.
Right.
So it's a little bit
I guess
of
that's your job, right? Your job is literally to keep them on a keen eye on the business side.
And I have to think about it because at the end of it, I'm matchmaking, right? Like a designer to a retailer. So I have to think about the marketability of that product, the marketability of the brand, the collection, the numbers, and I have to think retail.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like you're a second side of the brain where you are thinking about the business side of things.
Yeah.
And potentially making sure that you're like pulling them back to, hey, okay, creative vision's awesome. Here's the business side of things.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
So business models, finding the fit. What happens third?
And after they find the fit, they realize it comes at a cost. So we sit down and we do the costs, the stuff every creative person hates, right? Like we don't want to talk about the numbers. We don't want to face the reality. We just realize, hey, we've created something that's more runway, but it's probably not as marketable and commercial as it should have been. Or we want to create stuff that's more runway. Now, my job is to literally try and get that runway to become more commercial. So when we sit down on the numbers, I really tell them, hey guys, you can hit this in these many months and numbers and these many years, for example.
And the numbers is not just revenue projections. Is it on the production piece, the costing, stuff like that?
Yes,
okay.
Everything, right? So it's almost like how many sets of these pieces do I need to create now?
Gotcha.
And who do I sell this to? And if I create, say, 5 sets of this sample, then do we even have takers for these 5 sets? Or in how much time can we get to these 5 sets?
Got it.
So it's a lot of retail and it's literally what I specialized in. So I sit down with them on that. And we try and make sense of all of those numbers and the designs and the creatives. And we talk about pricing. Now, I take a little bit of pride when I talk about pricing because, when we've been marketing a lot of these designers internationally, we realized that when we started out, had no idea about the value of these products outside of India. We just knew Indian products and Indian designers.
Indian prices as well.
And everybody globally has always looked at India as if they are make in India. So it's a lot of government included, where they all start talking about India to be a hub for manufacturing.
Yeah.
We're going a little bit different when we come with the route and we're just like, it's, designed in India and not just made in India. So guys, what about the pricing when it comes to design? right? So 3 years later, I know I can produce this piece, but can I design it the same way? I don't know that, right? And so a designer needs to come into the picture 3 years later as well, because either you run out of materials or you don't have the same production units. You probably realize that, inflation, seasonality, the pricing has changed, right? But then designers don't get paid 3 years later when a design needs to sell. And so I work with designers who really want to charge for that design endlessly, right? So we do a pricing system, or we've built a little bit of a pricing system where it is a pricing that's unified globally. Whether you're selling online, you're selling through a B2B channel, you're selling through your own website, you're selling in India, you've arrived at a price for that product that's fair. And so a Shruti that's sitting in New York should be able to log in and check, a designer from India, but be okay with paying the duties and the taxes of this product being shipped to that state. And similarly with anybody in India, right? So we try and pass on the benefits with pricing to where the designer is locally grown and where the designer really originates. But we've also been able to really make this price a lot more competitive globally. So we do pricing and we do a lot of numbers for them.
So we're still in phase 3, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
And what's the final phase?
Marketing strategy. So
Okay.
it's like, okay, now I've created everything. I know how to sort of put the numbers around it. I have the money, or I'm working towards the money now. Now what do we do? So then we try and get them to clean up on their visual appeal, their collaterals, everything that makes communication sense to anybody who wants to purchase this brand and this designer. A lot of them say, hey, we want to launch in, this beautiful looking museum, for example. And then we're just like, but you're not there yet. Like the museum needs to accept you. They may accept your product, but they don't accept the brand yet.
Sure.
So we help you with putting up your, website, your collaterals, just cleaning up on your design side of things, do a little bit of an audit around that, and really take them to market.
Okay, so it's very clear that you've got this system and you're so well versed with the system, having done it a bunch of times, that you can customize stuff and mess around as well, right? And have freedom within the framework. How did you arrive at this sort of system? Was it like, for example, I know from my journey, I arrived at a bunch of frameworks and all of this stuff because I started doing it freestyle almost, and then realizing, wait a minute, there seems to be patterns, and then I put it together. Was it similar for you, or did you go with the intention of, I've got to come up with a system?
No, I think this system building came 8 years after I was in the industry, right?
Okay.
When we started out with, hey, we want to build a platform. And of course, we've gone the opposite route now. But when we start off with like everybody who comes in with the idea of, hey, I want to be at this destination already, but you don't know how to get to that destination. So we experimented over the years with, we want to do a platform, we want to do an app, we want to do a website, we do B2C first, we'll sell all of this, we'll do fabulous pop-ups. And then you realize that all of that is going to cost you money. So if it's going to cost you money, instead of messing up on the go, you'd rather just build and work towards that first. And then you can, you have a lot of spare cash to sort of play around with and figure it out. Very similar to a Jigsaw story, where you first do a bunch of things that you really want to experiment with. And then you realize you've got to build a system around it for it to be more sustainable.
Yeah.
And so that's how I arrived at it. But I realized that, it's not everybody's method. Especially if you are in fashion, because you can obviously see the highs and the lows much faster in our industry as well, right? So if, for example, you get picked off by one celebrity or one PR or one stylist, you're overnight a success in fashion. But then how do you retain that success? So you still come back to a framework like ours. So
you're helping build the engine.
Yeah, literally. An engine that, and also fuel it, and I'll get to the fueling part of it, because this is only just I've helped you build the engine. The fueling is the marketing side of things, and for the longest time.
So this is beyond phase 4 of marketing strategy. This is the execution piece of marketing. Okay.
This is, so I've been married to this idea for a really long time, right? And I just didn't want to be this person who comes with gyan and tells everybody this is really what you need to do. At the same time that they're doing their stuff, we're also doing our stuff, which is really building on the retail side of things, and generating the leads of, this is the retailer, this is the buyer, this is the store that wants to buy your product. So can you please create and design these collections and these designs that's in accordance to what they want, because we know it's going to sell. It's one thing to sort of come to somebody and then tell them that this is what you have to do, and it's another where you're actually doing the job and telling them, listen, now you create accordingly. So we're also doing that. That's phase 4 and beyond, like you said. And of course, that's harder for us to be able to put together. But we've gotten to further ahead in our journey of, generating those leads by cleaning up data, working with data that I wasn't comfortable with.
These are leads for the clients to go through the four things, right?
And
So
just
that they can
anybody.
go global.
Yeah, because the big mission for us, Rashid, was not just to solve for our leads. It's to solve for anybody and everybody who's in the fashion space. So we all talk about sustainability, but really how many of us are actually sustainable? So with that thought, I was like, listen, the only way somebody can be sustainable is if they know that this is what's selling and you need to create this and sell more of that. So you will only create what's selling as opposed to just creating and then experimenting and trying, right? So this matchmaking piece of the puzzle that we're looking at doing is what I've been building and working on for the longest time. And we've gotten further ahead where today we can predict these are your leads and these are the types of products that they will buy. And these are typically the designs and these are the prints and these are the colors in these sizes.
Got it.
So now it's on
That's
you.
a lot of value.
Yeah. So now it's on you to design only that. But if you still want to like go down the whole, hey, but Shruti, I want to create this runway piece. And I was like, sure, go ahead and do that.
Okay.
But don't put your money on it.
Yeah.
Or don't put all of your money on it. It's not going to work.
Very clearly, we know the system. We know how you work with them. A few of the, I think, the bits where you've got to restrain the designers, bring them back, a few of those. I want to ask you now on not your relationship with clients, but your relationship with your business right now. Which part of the business makes you beat your head against the wall? Like, which part are you like, oh my God, why am I not figuring this out? I'm finding it challenging as an entrepreneur. What are you finding hard right now?
Yeah, the part where, I don't know, the working with the mentality where if, for example, a client is paying you, then the expectation is that you need to give me XYZ number of hours, and you building that little bit of boundary around these are the only number of hours that you can offer within the contract and the service. Going out of your way to do some stuff to like almost give back to the client so that they're happy, they're pleased. They continue to keep working with you on certain aspects. So I feel those are some of the pieces with every business, no matter how much you put around.
Do you find you're just spending a lot more time than you expected to with clients on average?
I've gotten better over the years for sure, but I'm still not 100% there yet. So I would still say that's a recurring challenge for me personally, where I don't need to. It's not like I don't want to. I feel like the nature of the business or the way we're looking at designing the business is you do not need to constantly keep staying in touch. You can go back and do a bit of your things and then you use those calls with your consultant to sort of talk to them about these are my challenges. But I'm still helping them figure out their challenges along the way, which ideally the,
is it because they're getting in touch with you or is it because you're just
available?
Yeah, available and jumping at it and saying, oh, here's an opportunity for me to, because you enjoy that as well, right?
Yeah, no, not like anymore.
Okay.
I'm trying not to enjoy doing that.
Sure.
But it's still setting those boundaries, I think, with the clients. Client management, client expectation has always been a challenge. It's something that, we're also a hybrid model, right? Where, it's going to be a combination of you do your stuff through the worksheets and the frameworks and the toolkits that we've created. But there's also this access to one-on-one weekly calls with the coach directly. And I enjoy that, which is why I've kept it to be hybrid. But then it's now just literally hand-holding sometimes.
Right. So it's in the middle of the week.
Yeah. And then you're like, spoon-feeding and hand-holding. So that piece of the puzzle, I still don't have the answers to. And I'm working towards building that. That really wants me to, I want to.
There's just an idea that we tried a while ago and we got a couple of other people in the coaching consulting business to implement this. It seems to be giving them really positive results over the last 3 to 6 months. What they did, and I don't know if you do it already, is you know how when people sign up, you do like this contract, right? So whether it's legally enforceable or not, I have very extreme opinions. But anyway, they do this contract type of thing. What we started doing a little bit thoda hatke is we had a dedicated expectations document and it was part of the first kickoff call. So in the kickoff call, in the agenda, it literally says expectations setting, and there is one side of the slide that says expectations of me and another side of the slide that says expectations of you. And there are so the meeting goes a little bit like, we are guessing these are the expectations you have of us. And then we go through each of the points and then we explain them, talk it through, etc. And then the second part of the slide shows up and says, okay, just like you have expectations of us, we have expectations
Nice.
of you to make this work. And these are our expectations. Let's walk through them, answer any of your questions, make sure we're on the same page before we move.
Yeah, nice.
And that sets it up really nicely for the clients to realize, wait a minute,
Yeah.
we both have to be equal partners if we're going to make stuff happen.
Yeah.
And so it developed this sort of common language where if clients didn't adhere to those expectations, just like they could call you out and say, yo, you said once a week you'd be with me, but you're not. The same way you can go, hey, I know you want my support right now, but as per this expectation that we signed off on, it's not. So can we go back? Do we have to go back to the expectations and figure out whether we're still on the same page or are we good?
Yeah.
You know, and that conversation really helps. So maybe it's worth trying your version of what that is.
It's a great idea. I mean, I think we already have that highlighted in our contract, but we haven't really gone over them.
Yeah, it's normally just what we realized is it's normally a piece. Yeah, it's in the contract. Nobody reads any fucking contracts.
It's an extra for us. So
yeah,
I will just put it right on top.
So put it up and then talk about it in the meeting. I think that adds quite a bit. Yeah. One of the companies has taken this to an extreme and they've added a layer, which is they do a monthly or every 2 months a catch up with the client. And that call has nothing to do with the work. They only review expectations and process.
Oh, nice.
So they just review, are these expectations being met? Is the process working or do we need to tweak the process a bit?
Yeah.
What process sticks within the constraints of this? And
that's a really nice idea. But in my head, the moment you said that, I was just like, damn, 60 more minutes.
Yeah, okay. So that might not be not be what.
But that's a great idea.
But the common language piece might help, right?
Yeah,
where you
of
talk
course,
about it
absolutely.
later. What's something that has recently happened that you should be getting on stage and receiving a prize for, but because you're an entrepreneur, nobody is giving you a prize for anything?
Okay.
What have you absolutely killed it at over the last couple of months that you should be celebrated for?
I think couple of years.
Staying
relevant.
Sorry, let's go.
Just staying relevant and just continuing to stay relevant. No, I'm joking. I do have some stuff I can talk about.
Yeah, please brag now.
Okay, so when we started out with Satatki and I was married to the idea of, building this platform or this matchmaking, this algorithm, we don't know what form it's going to take. I think at the back of my head, the only thing that was running along with, my co-founder was it's expensive. Right, it's expensive. It's going to require a lot of money. It's going to require a lot of time and a lot of commitment. I think in the last 2 years of staying very, I would say, focused, consistent, and disciplined, and not as much as Madhuri would like for me to say this, but I've tried to stay as disciplined as I could with doing it myself first, without having to hire people to do that job, because I was like, hey, until I sort of get my hands dirty, really work with the data, understand what's going on, what's not going on, it will be difficult for me to sort of ask for the money as well and go raise funds. So I feel like staying relevant and staying disciplined about grunt work is
in such a glamorous space.
Because really a lot of the times when somebody's asking, they were just like, okay, there's a bunch of boutiques, why don't you just reach out to them? I was like, guys, but are they really your targets? Right? Yes, there are tons of boutiques out there that you want to market yourself to, but are they really buying what you're buying? So you'd rather focus on the people who are looking to purchase the kind of products at the price that you're bringing to them. And I've been very disciplined about that, working with a bunch of leads and a bunch of retailers who genuinely care about the kind of stuff that we're creating over here. And to find them, it's taken me a long time. And to be able to go ahead and continue to keep finding those guys, it will require a lot of discipline. So I've stayed very disciplined, at least in my head and at work, as much as Madhuri may not have liked me to, about that piece. Yeah. And I think I would also take 2 minutes to sort of, advise every other entrepreneur out there who's, non-committal about the grunt work to continue to be, and give it a shot, because it's really not rocket science. I mean, nobody knows your business better than you. And nobody's going to put money on your business as much as you would. And when I say money, I don't literally mean, the money. It's a lot of the time and the commitment as well, which comes at a price. So I think you should do that before you sort of go out there and feel like you need to seek the funds first, because then it just becomes a lot more, I would say, justifiable. It feels like a lot more like you deserve that, and you need to work towards building that. So bootstrapping is great, but I would say bootstrap for a certain extent and then decide which way you want to sort of go. But to arrive at that decision, you need to do the grunt
And
work
stay
first.
disciplined. Yeah, that's definitely something to be celebrated.
Yeah.
You said something very interesting, which is you weren't talking about money itself, but the time. And you said there's a price you need to pay. And this is something I believe in quite wholeheartedly, that when you do something, there's always a price to pay for any success or your version of success.
Yeah.
What has been the price you've had to pay? What have you had to give up to stay committed, disciplined, do the grunt work, etc., that you feel you've had to give up?
A
to make
lot
it
of
happen?
things, honestly. But at the top of my head, definitely I've lost clients, right? Who think we're not doing enough. That's one. Because we're married to an idea that we know we want to go down and solve, which may not really be what you have the time and the effort for, right? So, it's trust a little bit. That we've sort of played with. It's a lot when you are a really young startup. Every client matters to you, and it still continues to, and it will always, right? Because we've always been taught that client first. Clients obviously going to be doing whatever. So I've paid the price of course, like losing out on a couple of clients who I genuinely wanted to continue working with, but contracts have probably not been renewed because we didn't hit the expectations for them. That's been tough. Sleepless nights, because you just obviously have a bunch of questions around, will you make it? Is this something that you're really worth, giving your time and heart to? And then the third piece of the puzzle, of course, is just like, for how long more can you do it, right? Like, it's this question that's constantly haunting you, like a sword hanging on your head about. And it's not just a question, like your conscience, really. It's not about you answering that question. It's a lot of questions that come at you as an entrepreneur, because like, it's from friends, from family, in terms of, but for how long? Like, you can just shoot down that idea, take the easy path. But I feel like, yes, that option exists, but only after I've done everything in my capacity to be able to answer that. So yeah,
that's a hefty price to pay, right? And I guess all of us are paying a different type of price to pursue that sort of dream. Have you ever come close to just being like, oh, screw this?
Yeah, and I think you have proof in voice notes and messages from me.
Okay, maybe let's not ask, have you
Trick
ever?
question.
When was the last time you felt like, oh, you were close, and was there, like, how did it like turn around and you're still at it?
Having, like, say, Madhuri for me, who's basically the data analyst in the team, and she's like technically half co-founder, of course, which she shies away from. But the fact that she keeps me very, very honest to what it is that we're really trying to build has helped me constantly just go back to, I don't want to do it, but I will have to do it because there's somebody else out there who cares about this more than you, probably. That's one. And two, obviously, like, when you go back and like those client reports, right? You need to report at the end of it. So I think it's accountability, to answer your question.
Sure.
You need to have people who you are accountable to and also for, because then that's what makes it fun and more relevant. So that's worked for me.
It's very funny that this conversation has come full
started,
circle.
No, you started with
accountability, no plan, but we've ended up at the similar space.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we've done enough of
Business
heavy
talk.
Business talk. We'll just do Jaldi with Jigsaw. So some rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
I'll ask you a couple, you ask me a couple. Let's volley them back and forth if that's
Sure.
okay.
Sure.
Okay, question number 1. I am going to begin serve. How do you switch off?
Tarot.
You get
Tarot.
energy from it? Nice.
Yeah. I just open cards and I be like,
What's happening?
what's happening?
Okay, nice.
Tell me what to do next. How do you switch off?
Oh, you're just
Easy.
going to
Yeah, this
just
is like
copy
a
paste every
return.
question.
Yeah.
I play football, or I go back to, like, I'll watch The Office for like the 912th time.
Oh, fun.
What is because I know you're big on your coffee. What is your favorite coffee joint in Bangalore right now?
No,
Piss
this
people
is
off.
like a proper plug-in.
Yeah.
I can't be marketing one and not the other.
Okay.
I mean, no, I'm joking.
No, just
I
pick
can.
one. What's your favorite?
I really enjoy Maverick and Pharma. It's down the road from where we are. You enjoy poker?
Yes.
So I think my question to you is, what would your takeaway for entrepreneurs be from poker at work?
There are loads, but I think the main one is you have to make calculated bets if you want to win. So if any entrepreneur is not making calculated bets and accepting a little bit of risk, then there's you don't get to win anything if you're out of the hand.
Nice.
So you've got to make some calculated bets.
This is a perfect answer.
Yeah.
You are
It's
prepared.
by the textbook.
Yeah,
I've written
you
this
are
one
just
down.
prepared, right?
What, for a question I didn't know was coming? What is the latest piece of trash TV you've watched?
a lot of reels, like Ori reels.
Oh my God, the guy who's a liver.
A
Okay.
lot of that, and that's like, it sucks. It's just all over.
So is your, okay, can you tell me a little bit about your Instagram feed? Like what are, it's Ori and what are other, like one
like
or two
right
other
now
things
it
that
was
come up?
me just being in Jamnagar, so like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
a lot of
it's
just
everyone.
it's
Oh,
Bollywood and
It's like every
It's a lot of
second
that.
reel. I mean, I have seen Kareena Kapoor pose with like other people for the last like what feels like a year now.
yeah, exactly. And
It's crazy.
it's annoying, but also it's obnoxious because like they're with everybody like you know that you're going to be with. So there's no new content out there, but it's fun for someone like me because then that's content to share with people and conversation starters. That's one.
Yeah.
And two, I think it's just the fact that I think we're in fashion, so we have a lot more like that we can sort of binge on in terms of who's wearing what.
It
and
could
like,
be work.
Yeah, it could be. It's work,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
I swear it's work.
Nice.
But yeah, that's my Insta feed. Wait, you asked me 4 questions.
I cheat.
Your piece of advice to entrepreneurs who are single, not entrepreneurs who are single, actually, like entrepreneurs who are single at work and in life.
Wait, what? I'm so confused about this question.
Entrepreneurs who are single, like solopreneurs,
Yeah.
at work and are still single. You're married. That's where the question came
Okay,
from as
got
well.
it. I think
You're single the way of life.
No, I think the biggest challenge for any solopreneur is the fact that you're solo. So I would say surround yourself with people you trust, whether that is family, friends, community, whatever it is. Talk to them about your business, what you're going through. Even if it's not to get ideas, it's just to get stuff out. You need to have a sort of vent sesh or
Yeah.
a space where you
Yeah.
can get stuff out because otherwise things in your head, things can get really messy and really dark.
Wait, somewhere in that question I also said you're married. So like, is you use like you basically went
No,
all of this out?
no. I mean, yeah, she has to deal with so much, right?
Oh my God.
We basically are on like a monthly crying clock,
Okay.
right? So once a month I'll cry to her. She'll like listen. She'll be like, yeah. And then eventually she'll turn it around and be like, she'll always ask me this one question. So if you were your own coach, what would you be telling yourself? And then I'm like, oh my God, she's gonna like make me coach myself in front of her.
Nice.
And then I walk out with positivity.
So what I'm getting is you basically find yourself a partner that
To
you can
cry
talk
with.
work to as well.
I mean, who's supportive?
Who's-
I think that's the main thing. Okay, let's wrap with one question, which is what can we look forward to from you and Project Satatki in 2024? What are you excited to get your hands dirty with when it comes to work?
Again, I had this idea a year and a half ago, and I feel like I've not done nothing about it except for just, like sit with the idea. So it's a coffee table book, and I've been talking about it to everybody, but just not doing enough about it. Why coffee? Everybody knows I love coffee, but why a coffee table book in fashion is, I think it's just because, that's my way of going glamorous again.
Nice.
So it's a large, almost obscure book that you can keep in your houses at work. And it's a little bit about the process. It's about how we've sort of mentored a bunch of brands. How do you think fashion business? And it might just be like the most exciting piece for anybody who's in the visual art space, design space, fashion space, to be able to gather a lot of information and reference from. So,
That's super fucking exciting.
Yeah, exciting.
So when do I get to buy a copy? Like what date is
this
it?
is his way of keeping me accountable
Yeah.
to
So
this.
when
but
are we seeing it?
last quarter of this year,
Wait, what? Financial calendar? Calendar. So October 1st, I'm getting a copy.
No, October 1st, you will get maybe a draft.
Okay,
At
October
least
1st,
that.
draft copy.
Yeah.
Okay,
At
great.
least.
We record shit. I'm very excited about this. I hope it
Thank
happens.
you.
And
Yeah.
it was so good, not just to do this, just to reconnect. It's been, I think, a couple of months, 2, 3 maybe.
A lot. I
Yeah.
lose track of time. But the last time we officially connected about work, I think, was just at this event, which is a year and a half ago.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We're Jigsaw Thinking, home of the self-starters. If you're interested in being your own boss, head to jigsawthinking.com or drop us a DM at Jigsaw Thinking on Instagram.